Hello, good morning. It's Monica from Life as Art, and this is the Friday 10 a.m. Technique Live at the History Makers online crop. And we are going to be working with some pattern papers today. I hope you saw the title as you were coming in to the live session. We're going to be doing some pattern paper patchwork. That's at least the name that I came up with just a couple minutes ago. And the technique that I'm going to be showing you today is actually one that was shown to me by a fellow close to my heart consultant, Laura Beacham, who does fabulous artwork. She is amazing and just a lovely person all around. And so I thought I would share this design with you today. And it's one that's kind of fun because, yes, I'm going to be doing it on a card, but you could totally do some elements like this on a layout as well. Good morning, Mary. Nice to see you on this morning. If you're popping on to watch, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on, you can just say replay so I know that you stopped in to see us later. And so we're looking at this month's featured collection, which is called Life's a Hoot. And it is got some gorgeous colors and very sort of watercolory treatments to the pattern papers. It's just gorgeous. And so we're going to be using those pattern papers today. And this design is wonderful for using up the little tiny pieces that are cut off when you're creating your layouts and your cards. You know, there's always going to be those little strips of paper that are left over. And this is perfect for those. Sometimes we say that and it's like, well, we just took a whole sheet of paper and we cut up little bits. But I actually went through the papers that I had already cut up, and I found all the little pieces that were less than like a 3x4. And that's what I've used to create this card today. And so we are going to be using Life's a Hoot with all the fun pattern papers. Again, we're using a design that was created by Laura Beacham, who's also a close to my heart consultant. And let's get to work. The first thing we want to do is we want to have a piece of cardstock, and I'm just using White Daisy. Good morning, Jody, joining us from work, and hello, Mum. And so we're going to be starting with this piece of White Daisy cardstock. And I'm just realized I didn't put my phone on silent. So I'm going to do this so we don't have the, ever-present sheep making noise beside me. Those of you who come on during our chat and craft know that my phone notification sounds like a sheep. It goes, meh, meh. So if I don't turn it off, we're going to hear the sheep, and we don't want to hear that during this. Good morning, Joanne. Nice to see you're joining. So this piece of cardstock is cut to 5 1/4 by 4 inches, or 4 by 5 1/4. So it's a little bit smaller than a card base. And the first thing that we want to do, sorry, piece of dust, is we want to draw some lines. We're going to need a pencil and a ruler. So I've already got my ruler out. And these are very simple lines, okay? It's not going to take a lot of skill for this. We are going to line up our ruler from corner to corner, just like this. And we're just going to make a line in the center. We don't need to go all the way, just a little line in the center there to show us with that direction. And then we're going to line up our ruler going the other direction from corner to corner. And again, just in the center, we're just going to make a little line like that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And then we want to make a vertical line, and this is 4 inches wide, so that's easy. We just line it up at the 2-inch mark, like so, and we're going to draw a line. Oops, I'm a little off. I forgot about the width of my pencil. So now I have 2 lines. It's all good. And then we're going to line it up from side to side this way. Now we have, what did I say? 5 1/4. So that is 2 1/2 plus 1/8. So we're at 2 5/8. Just line it up and make a horizontal line right there in the center. Okay, So that's our first step. We can get rid of the ruler. We don't need that. We can get rid of the pencil. We don't need that. And the next step that we need to do is we need to attach this to our card base. And you're probably thinking, wow, that's a really fancy, design that you've created for us today. Don't worry, it's going to completely get covered up. Good morning, Carol. You're just a couple minutes late. No problem. We're working on a fun card design, and it's such a fun paper piecing technique. And so all we've done is we've taken a 4" by 5 1/4 piece of paper, and we've drawn some lines on it. We went from corner to corner, both directions, and then we went in the center, top to bottom, and the center horizontally, just so we can find that nice center and have all those guidelines for what's coming next. So now I've taken my standard size card base, my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I folded it in half with the score bump to the inside of the card. And then I'm going to attach this piece right in the center. So you're kind of thinking it's white on white. And then we've got some, very beautiful pencil lines on there. Don't worry, we're covering it up. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this in the center of my card, just like this. And you're going to be seeing me use a different kind of adhesive today that I don't ordinarily use, but it's kind of essential for this technique. And so I had to rifle in my drawer and find one, and so I found one, yay. And so you're going to get to see, I'm using a little tape runner-y thing. I don't usually use those. I usually use the double-sided rolls. Yeah, Mom, I do my mental math the same way. It probably is, you just go, okay, if half of 5 is 2 1/2, and then you got another, yeah, I always have to do it that way. Chunk it up in little pieces. That's actually a strategy, right? Good morning, Deborah. Good morning, Heather. I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Nope, there we go. We're good. Okay, so we've got that attached like that. Now we need yet another piece of cardstock. And again, I'm using white daisy. So we've got white on white on white. You're looking at this going, wow, Monica, you really pulled out all the stops for today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my second piece of white daisy. I'm just setting it here for a second. And this is where it gets interesting. I need a shape. And I need a shape that's about a 3" shape. It could be anything. So you could do a star. You could do a square. You could do a circle like I'm going to do. You could do a butterfly. You could do anything that's about a 3" shape. You need to be able to fit it on your card. And so I've got my 3" circle die here. And I'm just going to kind of center it in the middle of my piece of paper. I'm just going to scooch this out of the way because I have to bring in my die cut machine to do this. And look at that, a piece of washi tape sitting right on top. I'm just going to stick it down with a piece of washi tape. And I didn't measure anything. It's just eyeballing it. And we're going to run it through just this top piece of paper. Okay, so just the top piece of paper, leaving the rest on there. And you know what? Once you try this with something simple like a circle, you're probably going to go, what other shapes can I use? And you're going to go through your die cuts or your punches or whatever you have, or you could even use something on the Cricut, and you're going to be finding shapes because this is such a cool technique, okay? I guarantee it. You're going to want to do it more than once. And so you can save this little circle. You can make a tag out of that. I'm going to set this aside because we're done with that. There is our overlay. Just going to put my machine away. And by put it away, I mean I'm going to park it on the floor because that's generally where it stays because it's heavy and it's just easier if it's already on the floor and nice and handy for me. Okay, so we've got our card base with our weird thing happening here. And then we've got our overlay. Now we're going to need our pencil again for this. We're going to stick this back on line it up. So you want to line it up carefully this time with the edges of your card. And you're going to bring in your pencil and you're just going to go around the shape. Now don't draw right against the edge, because if you draw right against the edge, you're going to get pencil on your overlay and then you have to erase it. So to avoid having to do that, just go around your shape just a little bit inside and make some marks, just so you know where the edge of your shape is approximately going to be. Okay, that's all we're doing. And then we can take this off and we can scooch this over to the side. Let me show you so you can see though. I've just made little marks around, just giving us an approximate of where that shape is. And again, you're probably going, wow, that's gorgeous. Thanks for showing us this beautiful card technique. So now I'm going to take a journal pen or a gel pen. In this instance, I've got a gel pen here. And I'm going to add some details to my card. And so I want to do a little stitch line around my circle. So if you're not comfortable hand drawing it, pass it off to somebody else who is. And if you are, then just go right ahead. Now, some people have done this fun technique where they take the shape that they already cut and then they do their stitches around the shape and use that like a stencil, right? And that'll certainly get it nice and even. So that's another trick that you can do. But I like just doing it by hand. So I'm just going to take my gel pen and make some stitches all the way around. If you were really fancy, you could get out your sewing machine or your needle and thread and do actual stitches, but we're keeping it simple today. All the way around. And you could even change the color. It doesn't have to be black. It could be whatever you want. You will find when you see how this ends up that colorful is okay, right? You can even use colored cardstock. It doesn't have to be white, but for what I'm doing, I kind of like the look of the white, and it kind of gives it a lot of pop when you see what's going to happen. Ooh, who's excited to see what's going to happen? My eyes are going blurry right now, so I have no idea if I'm going in a straight line. I think it's the combination of the lights and the fact that I'm perhaps a little bit tired. All right, so there we go. We have done a stitch line all the way around. Now, I said I threw away my ruler and I wasn't going to use it again, but actually I am, because I want to draw a border. And quite often I do my borders freehand, but I thought for today, since we're doing all of these straight lines, I would actually use my ruler to make a little border. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it really close to the edge, maybe about just slightly under 1/8 of an inch. And I'm not going to start at the edge. I'm going to come in a little bit and just make a line, just like that. And then I'm going to turn my paper, and I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to line up my ruler. And I'm going to make a line. So this is for all of you guys who get the heebie-jeebies when I say we're going to do a hand-drawn line. You can use a ruler. It's totally acceptable. And then we're going to do the same thing on the ends. And I don't even care if they match up. In fact, it looks kind of funky if they don't meet, right? If there's a little gap, it's totally okay. And we're going to go around here and add the last line. There we go. Okay, so that is our borders. We've done stitching and we've done a ruler line. We can put this away now. And then I want to actually, before I do anything else, I want to stamp my sentiment on here, because we're gonna have a hard time stamping it later on, unless you want to add it on a separate piece of cardstock. But for my pattern, I'm gonna just stamp it right on my card front. And so I'm using the really cute stamp of the month for March, which is called Precious Moments, and it has all of these cute little critters, the kangaroo with the joey and the koala, and then this little hedgehog guy, which Karen will be able to tell me what the other name for it is, but these are all from Australia. And so I'm going to use this little guy with the flower, because doesn't he just look so happy? Look at his little toes. Oh my gosh, so cute. I can't even. And so the sentiment that I have chosen is, you brighten my day. And I think that is a nice sentiment to send to somebody. And so I'm just going to ink it up. I'm just using black ink. So we're keeping kind of a black and white theme going here. I should actually have this over here. That's why I have this foam. And I'm going to kind of aim, because I know how my card's going to turn out. I'm going to aim sort of for the center and going to the right, and just stamp it right there on my card. Oh, look at that. I didn't push down. I didn't push down enough. All right. Let's see. What are the chances? Okay, I'm going to bring it really close to myself. And this is why you use your stamping platform. Let's see. If it doesn't work, yeah, I'll fix that later. We'll add an extra little piece and fix that. No worries. We will do it on a separate chunk of cardstock. And we can do that at the end. So just ignore that sort of blurry one. See, this is what happens. You can get pretty close. Actually, it looks kind of like a drop shadow, but I know it's blurry, so I'm going to fix it. But if you try to re-stamp with the clear stamps, you can actually get pretty close, but it's never quite right on. And so the stamping platforms are awesome for that. Okay, so we've kind of prepared our front, even with the boo-boo and all. But let's go back to this part, because this part is going to be super fun. In fact, I'm going to scooch that right out of the way. And this is where we need the tape runner type adhesive. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover this whole area in the center all the way out and past, just a little bit past our dotted line with tape runner. Like, we're going to cover the whole thing, okay? So we're not being shy about this. We're going to get lots of tape runner on here, and we just want it solid. So let's see. Hopefully this doesn't run out before I get all my adhesive on here. And okay, now there's a few spots where I know I need to go a little farther out on the edge. But I think everything should be good. You can be kind of generous, because if you go over, it doesn't matter. It's going to get hidden. Okay, I think we're good. I'm not so good with the tape runners. All right, now this is the magic. Yes, using the thin cut as a stencil is a really fun trick. This is the magic for this technique. You need little scrappy bits. Remember, I said scrappy bits. If you've seen the challenges for today, you will notice that the layout and the card both use scrappy bits, and our demo is using scrappy bits too, because I know that you guys all have a good supply of scrappy little bits with all of the creating that you guys do. So these have been cut to 3/4 of an inch square. So you just have a strip 3/4 of an inch and chop it up in 3/4 of an inch chunks. And depending on the size of your die cut, you're going to need between 20 and 30 little squares, maybe, okay? And you want to have different patterns, different colors. So these are all different patterns from the Life's a Hoot paper pack. And so I tried to get ones that had sort of more solidy bold things, and then some that were a little bit lighter, and they're not all the same, which is great because our collections come that way. But if you're going through your scrap bin, just, pick different colors. And the more odd they look, probably the better, because this is like a patchworky kind of thing, right? And of course, traditionally, patchwork quilts were just made out of all the little bits and pieces of fabric that had been collected up, or things that have been cut apart because they got worn out. So, so this is how we're going to do it. So let me grab one of these pieces. And the first piece that you want to put on here, you're not going to put it on square. We're going to work on an angle. So that's why we have our little pluses going here. Our straight on plus and then our 90 or 45 degree plus. So this first one, we want to take the top and bottom point and line them up on that vertical line, and then the two sideways points going on the horizontal. Okay, so we're going to try and center it. So, and I got to remember which of those two lines was my center. And then when you stick it down, you want to give it a good press so that all the little edges are down in the adhesive. But don't stick your finger on the adhesive because that'll, you know, reduce the stickiness of it. So be a little bit careful with that. Okay, now the second piece that we're going to put on is going to just go beside it. Now this is kind of going stripey this way, so I'm going to put these kind of going stripey this way. And what you want to do is you want to butt it right up to there, like right up to the side of it with no gap, and then lay it down. Okay? Now, let's pick another one, and we're going to go down to the other side here. So let's take this one. It's kind of a, just, it's not a stripe or anything. And we're going to butt this right up against that one, making sure that it's right in line and no gaps, and stick it down. Now, when we shift to the next row over this way, we're going to switch it up a bit. So I'm going to take one of these, and what I want to do is I want to line, so I'm holding it like a diamond again, right? I want to line this side up with this line. So I'm actually going to be halfway between these two. So that's why we needed that other set of lines. So let me just butt this right up, no gaps, and sort of following that diagonal. It's just to give you a jumping off point. Okay, then let's just start adding. We're just going to be adding more and more papers, making sure that they're tight up against each other. You don't necessarily want to have the same pattern right side by side, so you just kind of mix and match, stick them on. And let's add this one. We'll put this one sideways. This one went this way, so we're going to go this way with this pattern. So even if you're duplicating the patterns, they're switched up a little bit because they're a different direction, right? And let's add another one of these and stick it down. And you just go as far out as you need to go so that everything that's going to show through that cutout is covered with pattern paper. Okay, so then let's grab this one here, and I'm going to line this one up halfway in between these two, if I can. And it should line up with that line there, but because of, you know, cutting things, I was using my little guillotine trimmer, and I was just lining it up along the 3/4 inch line. So I'm sure some of these are crooked. Can pretty much guarantee that some of these are crooked. So that's okay. We just make it work as best as it works, and just snug them all in together. And as you go, make sure that all the little bits are sticking down good. I'm going to go back in for another one of these and stick it up here. And this is kind of fun, right? You can just, kids could do this, you know. This would be great for, you know, crafting with a senior because you're just sticking pieces on. It's not too fancy. Let's grab another little stripey bit and stick it on here like that. And one of these jobbies. I'm going to turn it a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. I like that the adhesive is already down there. I'm not having to glue individual pieces because that could be a little bit annoying if you had to glue individual pieces. And then just keep going until you fill it all in. Now this one's sticking out a little bit farther. It's going to get covered anyway, but when you get out near the side, you can trim things off if you want. And if you've only got a little bit to cover, you can even just do a triangle. So you don't need to use a whole square. All right, and then let's go for another stripy one. Just tuck it in there like that. And as you get closer to the end, I know we did do our dashed line, but as you get closer to the end, you can bring in your overlay. Now, don't stick it in the adhesive, but you can bring in your overlay and just take a look and see, okay, I'm going to need another piece there, and I'm going to need another piece there, but this side's looking good. So I only need a few more little bits, and let's see, I've got a couple little triangles that I chopped up earlier, and I can't pick it up. There we go. I chopped up a little bits and pieces earlier when I was playing around with this design yesterday. So there's a little triangle we can tuck in there. We need another one over here. Let's add this little guy right there. Nice. Okay, and then what else do we want over here? Let's add another one of these guys. Like that. And these ones aren't probably going to get seen very much anyway, but we will stick them on anywho. And what else? What else? I guess another stripe. We'll just stick another stripe in there, like so. And I'm going to just trim this one off because it's kind of getting close to the edge. There we go. Alrighty, and now we got more scrappy bits so I can make another card. Woohoo! Woo-hoo. Okay, so let's bring back our overlay and just double check now that we've covered up all of our little pieces. Oh, isn't that looking cool? Look at that. Loves it. Okay, so we want to create a little bit of dimension with this as well, so I'm going to use some foam tape to lift up this overlay. So just adds, and I'm using the thin foam tape, so it's not a lot. Something that some people like to do is if you're at the craft store or the discount store and you see the kids craft foam, you can get that at a pretty good price point, the kids craft foam, and you can just use adhesive to stick it on here and pop it up. Some people also use sort of the thin-walled cardboard from recycled materials, because you know what, sometimes the foam tape is kind of expensive and you don't want to use a whole roll of foam tape for, you know, one card. So you can kind of be a little experimental with things that could pop it up, right? And so I'm just adding some, and then of course, depending on your design of what you've cut out, you're going to want to add a little bit of foam tape around the opening as well, so that you get that nice effect of it being popped up. And one more piece. There we go. And we can now remove all the backing from our foam tape. All the backing. Technically, you don't even have to remove all the backing, because, you know, the ones that you do remove will hold it, and the other ones are just popping it up. But I always take all the backing off, unless I'm waiting to slide something underneath it. Like sometimes if you pop something up and you need to stick a photo under it, then in those instances I will leave the backing on there so that the photo can still slide under it. Nice little trick doing that. Good morning, Jennifer. Nice to see you're watching. Yes, Joanne, it looks very quilty. That's why I was kind of calling it a patchwork, pattern paper patchwork. And alrighty. So now let me just make sure that, because I spun it around a couple times, so my fold is still where it's supposed to be. And so because I'm lining this up with the edge of my card and I have all that foam tape on there, I need to make sure that I kind of get it in the right spot before I lay it down. So there we go. And of course, I'm going to fix that sentiment as well. So I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper here that I have, and I'm going to stamp this little hedgehoggy guy with his little flower because he's so cute. And I'm going to ink him up and stamp him here on this piece of scrap paper. I could probably turn it this way because he's not a very big guy. He's just a cutie patootie. Stamp him on there, and then I'm going to take my sentiment that I stamped earlier and didn't do a great job. I'm going to stamp it down here at the bottom. Oh, I didn't do it well again. Oh boy, it's one of those days. Let's try it again. You know what? When I was working on my example, I forgot to put the sentiment on, and I actually stamped it on the card after everything else was on, foam tape and everything, and it turned out beautifully. Oh, there are days, right? So let's take our little guy here and set him aside, and I'm going to bring in my little trimmer and trim up this sentiment so I can stick it on my card. I'm going to go for the bottom first. And there we go. And then turn it around and try and line it up. This is why I'm using a trimmer, so that I actually get a straight edge. Hopefully. You brighten my day. I love that sentiment. I think it's just super cute. All right, and can move that out of the way. And since we're sticking it on there, I'm going to trim the edges. I could use the trimmer for that too, but I already put it away. Why don't we do a little dovetail? I know it's just white on white and nobody's going to see, but we could do that. If I trimmed it a little bigger, I could have drawn a black line around the edge and jazzed it up and all that, but we'll dovetail it because then it looks like we intended to do it. Carissa has a saying about that. When you have a mistake, just keep on going and make it look like it was your plan all along or something like that. Totally works. So let's stick this down. You brighten my day. Just like that. I'm going to bring it a little closer to me so I can see. There we go. Just like it was meant to be. Okay, let's do some coloring. I have some markers off to the side here. Let me bring them in. So our little hedgehog, I'm going to use the Earth Brown blend, and I'm going to start with the light and just color his little toes. Oh my gosh, so cute. And that's the Earth Brown. And then we're just going to work our way around, and I'm going to color kind of in a little circular motion like that all the way around. I think I need to order a new Earth Brown because it works so well for so many things. And remember that cow stamp we had a while ago? Yeah, there was a lot of coloring on that one. And of course it had to be brown because, you know, Jersey cows are the best. Hands down. So it always had to be a Jersey cow when I was coloring it. We used to have Jersey cows on our farm. So I might be a little biased about the whole Jersey cows are the best thing. So yeah, that's okay. We can be biased, right? And then I'm going to also come in with the mid color of the Earth Brown. And I'm going to add just a little bit extra along the edge here. Just sort of where his little spikies come out. Like that. And maybe around his ears. A little extra. Again, using just that little circular motion all the way along. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. And a little shadow under his arm. And there. And there. A little shadow under his chin. Oh, so cute. And maybe along the bottoms of his feet. Like that. So cute. And then you can go back to the light and just color over everything, and it will kind of blend all that together all the way around. Super cute. Super cute. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I really like little critters. I don't necessarily like little critters in my house. You know, when the mouses decide to come in the fall, yeah, we try to deter them. But with the stamping and all this, I like the little critters. And then I've got my light green blend. And was I going to use the lightest one? I think I was. I'm going to just put a little light green stem on our little flower. And I'll also just kind of dot along the little grassy bits there to add a little bit of color. This is why I like to have, you know, extra paper so you can kind of test what's happening off on the side. And then for my flower, I'm going to actually start with the Fair Skin blend. I'm going to start with the lightest color of the Fair Skin. And I was kind of envisioning sort of this color here. It's kind of like an orangey, yellowy, and there's a bit of orangey in some of these. So that's what I'm kind of trying to duplicate in the flower. I don't know if I was successful or not when I was practicing, but it looked okay to me. So I'm going to start with the light of the Fair Skin blend. And if you've ever done photography and had to do any messing around with the color schemes on it, you will know that everybody's skin is various shades of orange. so the Fair Skin blend will give you that little bit of orangey tone. And then I'm going to the mid, and I'm going to color about 3/4 of the flower petals with the mid-tone. We're just layering up colors. And again, I'm just going in little circles. And if you go quick enough, they kind of are still a little bit damp, and just do the blending already, so you don't have to go back and do it with the light again. And then I'm going to come in with the dark of the Fair Skin. And I'm going to do about 2/3. This is where we get our fractions, you know, from grade 6 math. All of our fractions. And then I'm going to also come in with the coral blend. And I think I want the medium, the mid-tone of the coral. And just right around the center, the sort of the last third or the last quarter of the flower. You can even do kind of little lines. Just spread it up a little bit. There we go, our nice little flower. And then also the light yellow. We're going to use, I think, the mid. The mid? Maybe that's too much. Let's use the mid. And we're just going to add some color in the center of our flower with the mid of the light yellow. There we go. And now it's time to fussy cut. We're going to start off by giving our grass a base. And then we're going to come a little bit farther past the grass, and we're just going to make a curve like this. And then we're going to come in and start doing our fussy cutting. And that kind of gives us a base for where he's standing and all that. It's kind of good when you don't have, when it's not a solid image, like if it's not just a flower, but when it has something like this where it's kind of, you know, floating because it's got sort of a base by adding the grass there, but there's no like edge where you can really go around. You have to kind of create your own invisible edge. And so you just pivot your paper as you do your fussy cutting, and you go all the way around, leaving a little halo of the white. You guys know how this goes because you see me doing it on almost every project. The days when I don't, people start wondering, where's the fussy cutting? Why is she not fussy cutting? And when I'm going over his spikies, you can see that I'm kind of just wiggling, and that kind of creates a nice little edge. Now here, I'm not going to go right underneath him because remember, we have this base that we're creating. So I'm just going to come out, snip that off, and come out a little bit farther than the grass and make our curved little edge. So there we go. So he's got a nice little spot there to stand on. Gather up those scrappy bits. They're not quite so useful. And then our little guy is going to get attached right there with a little bit of foam tape. Wherever I put it, there we go. So I'm going to add just a little bit of foam tape on this side of the flower, and a little bit of foam tape on this side of him, and a little bit of foam tape on the grassy base at the bottom on that side, because that's the side that's going to be on the very front part of the card. I'm not going to bother putting any foam tape over top of the opening. However, if I did, I would use the standard size foam tape because I'm using the thin for this. And so we're going to just stick him on here. I'm trying to avoid having, see, if I move him up too far, I've got a weird gap here, and I don't want the weird gap. So I'm just kind of parking him down a little bit lower, just like that. Plus you get to see more of the beautiful patchwork that we created. And then all we need is just a little bit of bling. And for this, I'm bringing in my pack of orange and yellow dots because we're going to kind of play up that orange that we tried to create on the flower. And let me see, I want to use some little hearts. I'm going to use the little orangey hearts here. And let's grab the biggest one first. We're going to stick it on up here like that. And then we'll take the middle size one and add it there. And then the small one, I'm using my little piercing tool to kind of pizza lift it up off the carrier sheet and then use it to position it. It's nice when you do that too, because if you take it and then you can kind of do this, you can move it around and see, okay, where do I want it? Whereas if you got it in your hand, you know, it's hard. With my hands anyway, you can't see where it's going. It's just randomly somewhere near about the end of your finger. So there is our completed paper paper patchwork card inspired by Laura Beacham's design. Not even inspired, completely copied, although she used different, images and bling and stuff and different papers. But I love how that you just put an extra layer of paper under there to make your lines line up all your little tiny squares of patterns. And then you have your die cut image at the front. So you could imagine doing a beautiful butterfly or something with this patchwork in behind. Wouldn't that be gorgeous? And then, of course, we've got our cute little hedgehog from that stamp of the month. And the stamp of the month is awesome because it's like a $27 stamp. But if you put in your $60 order, you get it for $6.75 if you select it when you're checking out. And if you're VIP, you get it for free with your $60 order. Woohoo! Nothing better than that. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that come together with a little bit of hand stitching and a little bit of ruler work on the edge, and even fixing up the little boo-boo that we've created. All right, have a wonderful rest of your morning, and we will be back at noon for Chat and Craft. All right, toodaloo, bye.